Hello and welcome. Today we are live here in our Roland Room in Brabant, and we have a visit from product specialist Ludvig Olin from Sweden, and we also have Nikolai.
Yeah, good to be here. I'll be keeping an eye on your comments, so if you have a question, leave them here below, and I will be your voice during this session. Yeah.
Okay. Today we should talk about the new series from Roland, the FANTOM-0 series. And it's a machine that's a lot of possibilities, and where should we start?
Yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about regarding this little beauty. I think it's an amazing instrument. It's fully packed with controls and everything. And it's a part of a new series from Roland called the FANTOM-0 series. So this is the FANTOM-06. It has 61 of those synth keyboard action keys. But we also do have two of the other ones in the series, the 76 key version with the same keyboard and an 88 key bed with weighted hammer action keys for those of you more into piano playing. But all of them and everything, every sound, every of the things we will show here will be as relevant for all of them.
Should we start with talk about the size and the weight?
Yeah, that's of course a big point regarding this. So it's like really, really light and compact. So you see we used every inch of the front panel, and it's like 6 kilos, so it's really, really light and easy to bring to a gig or a rehearsal. And the same with the bigger ones, it's like 7 kilos or 14.8 kilos for the 88 key version. So it's really, really portable and easy to carry instruments, but still sounding, the best. Yeah. So it's, I really, really, really enjoyed them. But maybe I should just walk you through the control panel or what we have here to get an overview of what we're talking about. So to start with, a sort of a sound that you would select in a live situation is something we call a scene. And one of those scenes will consist of up to 16 zones. So either you use a scene only playing one of those sounds, or you can combine up to 16 of them. And this is what you would select with the touchscreen. So we have a touchscreen front and center, and it's really easy to read and then easy to use. So you could select sounds just by doing that. But every scene would be possible to view in many different ways. I'm not sure if this is going through, but please, have a look at this at some point, because you show one scene at a time, or up to via 4 through 8 to all of the 16 zones. So you can get an overview of the full scene at once. But all of this is controlled via those sliders and knobs over to the left. So here is where you could switch your zones on and off, and also normally you would control level of each zone with these sliders. So in this case I have a piano, but then I have on the other 2 zones that are active, I have different sounds that I combine this piano with. So I can, in real time, create my perfect blend. But I could continue to do this, on all of the 16 zones. So this sound could actually be even more. I say I would like to add something on part number 4. I would just go here and use the category buttons here. So to maybe choose a pad sound on zone number 4, and then I could just combine it with the other 3 I already had. And
that's the in and out buttons you have.
yeah, that would switch zones on and off.
Yeah.
And also the zone I have active selected either by the touchscreen or this button over here. That is what would be controlled by the knobs. So if I have the fourth pad I used, it will be controlled by the cutoff knob in this example. But we could also use these rotary controls to do a bit of synth programming.
The volume and panel.
Yeah, so you could do even EQ here, and you could choose how much reverb or stuff like that. But normally it would be level, and then it would be pan. So if I would like to have this synth sound to the right or to the left.
And some will maybe ask, is it also possible to use the volume knobs for external?
Yep.
So if you have some of the sounds as internal and some external.
Yeah, exactly. So every these 16 zones, either of them could be either internal or external, or both. And there's actually a really easy way to switch them between. So you would just hold the shift button and then turn it on, and then it would light up in green, and then it will be a external zone instead. And by the time you do that, you can switch it on and off in the same manner, and then use the slider below to send volume outside. So it's also a really great MIDI controller for other gear. But but before getting there, I think there's a lot to do.
Yeah, let's hear some sounds.
Yeah, do you want to hear something? I could just show you. Yeah, we have, of course, in a keyboard instrument, still piano is an important part. So we are proud to show you the new Supernatural acoustic piano in here. So we have 2 banks of Supernatural acoustic pianos. And Supernatural, for us, that's a way of describing a technology that models the behavior of the original instruments. So we do have many of these models in here. We can have a look at or listen to some of them. But maybe I should show you the new piano. That's, I think this one is my favorite. It's the Winter Warm. I think it's a really nice one. And there will be, of course, always a possibility to choose between the thousands of already made tones or sounds in here. So by pressing the Enter key, you would get a list of the chosen category. So that's a really nice way of have an overview. So in this case, we can see that I have 5 pages of acoustic pianos. So there's like really many of them to choose between. And maybe this one is also worth mentioning. But yeah, many of them are really great. And
what about Rhodes and violins?
Then I would just press the electric piano button over here, so to get the same kind of overview, and then it shows me. Right now I have like 9 pages of electric pianos, but this would be the first one. Here you can also find an example of the great effects section in here. So every of these sounds would have their own insert effects. That could be something like the tremolo you hear in this sound. But it could also be like the chorus in this.
So 80.
Yeah. So we have a lot of these great roads in here, and maybe I should try to find something. Yeah, maybe this one is a bit Wurlitzer. And
Super Tramp.
yeah. So there are many great keyboard instruments.
I think we have a question, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Sajed has this question. What is the main difference between the Phantom 8 and the Phantom 08?
Yeah, great question. And I guess we would come there eventually. But why not take it right away to just get the question starting? I would say there is a lot of things regarding sort of the physical appearance. I'm not sure if you can see it, but the Phantom 8 is a really big one. It's a massive full instrument, and that's actually the 08. So you can see it's really compact for being an 88 key keyboard. So that's of course the biggest difference for me is the sort of physical difference. And this guy over here would be the Phantom 8. So it's maybe not so easy to find here, but it's you know, I like to put it as half the price, half the weight in a way. So that's the most important things that's different. But we do have, of course, a lot of things in the big Phantom that's amazing on its own right. We have something called a V piano, which is a totally modeled piano. That's only available in the big Phantom. There's another key bed, so the keyboard action would be different. I wouldn't. Of course, there's one that's better for some, but the one in the 08 is not bad at all. But its main focus is to keep the weight and the size down. So it has a different construction, which makes it more compact in a way.
But still great keys.
Yeah, I think you should definitely try them out, both of them, because I think they are really good. But sure, compared, you know, side by side, I would prefer the Phantom 8 key, but they are great in their own right. Otherwise, there are some physical differences. On the big Phantom, we have a row of zone select buttons over here, and we have more of the controls of the synth section, which we didn't really touch yet, but there would be more of synth controls.
We come back to
yeah. And also there's a lot of differences on the back side of things, which we didn't really discuss yet, but we have a great fully, you know, all you need back panel on the Phantom 0 series. We have the main out, we have an extra sub out. We do have the inputs, both with line and microphone level, that could be used for also the internal vocoder, or just for, you know, singing to your performance without needing a separate mixer.
Can you use some of the effects on the input?
Yeah, that's a cool thing. So you could either use it to, you know, say you have another keyboard that doesn't have built-in effects, or you want to connect your microphone for singing, you could use that.
And that's the master section effect.
Yeah, there's actually there's actually a possibility to put effects even on the insert. So there's actually a separate multi-effects or insert effect just dedicated to that section. And so there's the effects section is really amazing on these instruments. And then you would also have a master effects section that everything would just pass through. But otherwise we have you know, USB. We will also touch this later, but you have USB memory to sort of transmit stuff and store your sound. The USB computer connection to connect to your DAW. And also external device. This is not used that much yet, but will be hopefully more developed further on. But you could use this, for example, for another MIDI keyboard via USB, if that one doesn't have standard MIDI.
But you also use it when you upgrade.
That's also
the firm version.
Yeah. And but we do have also standard MIDI ports, both in and out, and we do have connection for 3 pedals. I'm only using the hold pedal or the sustain pedal today, but we could also use 2 pedal inputs more, and these could be switched or expression pedals, in whatever you want. But comparing that to the big Phantom, we would have things like XLR outputs on the big one. We would have even one more sub. We would have CV gate control, and we would have yet another MIDI out port and a separate MIDI through, and yet another pedal connection, and 2 more external device ports. So there's some details, but then again, this is more than enough for most use cases.
I think we have a question more.
Yeah, and I think it may fit into this discussion, because Sejas is asking, for studio use, is the Phantom 8 better than the 08s?
That depends, really. If you would appreciate anything of this, maybe you would need to connect to your modular gear or to something that uses CV and gate, then of course it would be a good thing. But actually they are more or less running the same operating system. So for computer integration, it's many things are exactly the same. So and it could also be a question of space. If you have a great studio, a big one, where you would easily have a masterpiece or like the master hub of your whole studio.
Well, it would work like an ordinary MIDI controller keyboard.
As well.
And you can use all the knobs.
Yes. Everything transmits MIDI, and it's also a USB audio interface as well as a MIDI interface. So in this case, I only use one USB cable to connect to my DAW.
That will say you can record through the line in? Yeah, to your DAW system.
Yeah, so you could use this as your main audio interface, and it actually is really good. The quality is fine. And here's another difference between the big one. The big one would have a XLR inputs with phantom power. Here is more for dynamic mics. So if that would be sort of your main use, maybe you should go with a big one if you need a condenser mic. But I hope that answered the questions. So I wouldn't say one is better than the other, but I know a lot of people already that they had the Phantom 8, the big one, in their studio, and then they got a O series one to bring to rehearsals. And that's a really cool thing as well, because these are compatible. So you could use the same scenes you have in your sort of studio Phantom and bring it to
and you have the light keys.
Yeah.
That's better for something.
In some ways it could be a good thing. But maybe let's get back to some sounds. It was some time since we played. Yeah, do you want to hear organ? Because that was perfect, because that was what I was gonna suggest. Actually, thing to notice is that the organ will only, or I should say the virtual tone wheel organ that we put in here will only work on zone 2. And that's the same on the big Phantom. On the big Phantom, V piano is only working on zone 1, and then we have zone 2 for organ. And so that's an important thing, that I need to select zone number 2 first, and then just press the organ category button over here. And actually in this section there's one button that will lead me directly into the editing of things. I could of course just press this touchscreen as well, but I'm sort of an old school guy, so I like to use the buttons where they are. So here we can see the dedicated organ interface with drawbars and all the controls you would expect. There's percussion on and off, and here's another thing, that we do have a touchscreen. You can use this, but if you're like me to prefer knobs and buttons, you can use the rotary controls under the screen.
Is it possible to use the knobs for drawbars?
That's the cool thing. So these would also do the drawbars. on screen. This is also a difference between the big one. The big one actually has a ninth slider. So that if you're going to do heavy organ playing, then you probably would need to reach that as well. And right now we don't have a hardware way of controlling that, so you would sort of need to use the touchscreen. But it's really nice. And you can use this for the Leslie speed. And we do have the chorus vibrato section, the scanner vibrato, and the percussion. I can also bring in some overdrive. And I think one of the most important reasons to do a modeled organ instead of a sample one, for me, it's regarding the percussion. Because on a Hammond organ, the percussion is monophonic. And if you would sample the sound with percussion, then you would have like polyphonic percussion, and that wouldn't be true to how the original instrument is working. So that's what we do. This percussion will be sort of fading away, and it will also use the same ninth drawbar to make this sound. So it's not a bug, it's a feature that whenever I use the percussion, this drawbar will stop making sound.
Okay.
So that's how it should work. And there's a lot of things going on with this organ. I really like the fact that we can do some really detailed settings regarding the tone wheel. For example, I like to bring in some more leakage between the
noise from the horn.
And the same way we can add some key click. I know on a Hammond organ this could be defects in a way that you would like to sort of take away, but now it has become such an integral part of the sound, so you would want some of that in there. And there's also a small detail I really like to do with the overdrive is to use this. Now I'm getting a bit detailed here, but I just want the perfect organ sound. So this is sounding really good to me. And you can, of course, store this setting. When I sort of make this, I'm ready to have it stored. I could just go right tone, and then I can store this.
Yeah. And that's stored in that scene.
That's the next step. So I would store the sort of the tone, which is what we call a single sound, and then I would, in the next step, store that also in the scene. Yeah. But I will always need to store the sound first.
But if you change that tone, it will change in all your scenes.
Yeah, that's the way it works. And I know it's a bit different than the chords, for example, but it's...
So the tone is the sound alone.
Yeah.
And you can then you put it in the scene with all the other sounds.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot of these going on, but to have it modeled with the physical drawbars, I think that's a really, really strong point for an instrument in this price range. But what can I show you more? Maybe some strings. This one I really like. It's also a supernatural string. That's actually using more of the zones. So we do have a violin on zone 1, a violin on zone 2, a cello and a contrabass. And then I also have a string section sound on zone number 5. So all of this together. And here's also one thing I'm not sure if I mentioned, but all of these zones, they can have their own key range setting. So you could have 16 splits, and in this case I have sort of splits, splits of 4, and then one sound on top of all of them. So the violin only goes from here. So if I play down here, I won't hear the violin. And for the viola, it's a bit lower, so it would go down here, and the cello would be, and then down there it would be the contrabass. And then I can just mix these as I want, and also add this string section sound on top of it. To get this really expressive sound. And I can also, actually in this case, use the mod wheel to express myself.
Yeah, that's the difference in the supernatural sound from a normal sample.
Yes, exactly. Because we kind of try to focus on the behavior of the instrument, and that's why I could also do things like...
You can change something in the sample when you play. Yeah.
Could go directly to do just by using one of those 2 switches here, which can be addressed to do anything, but for the supernatural sounds they can do almost like variation switching. So I could do the pizzicato and the staccato, and that's really playable, because and then of course I could go on using, say again, some kind of synth pad or something on top of this, and I'm not sure what to choose. Maybe something like this guy to have some sort of a hybrid sound, and then I would need to and I would need to switch on the zone. So I think the combination also to be able to use really good acoustic sounds, but together with the synth engine in here, that's also really a strong point. So it's not either or, it's both, in a way. But maybe that's a good reason to start talking about synth sounds.
Yeah.
But because all of our current instruments are using something we call ZEN-Core, and that's ZEN-Core with a Z. The good thing with ZEN-Core is more like sort of a, what's the word? Like a weave of different instruments working together. So it's more of a...
The same engine in
different
products
we have
in
it,
the Roland series.
That's a cool thing. So depending on what situation you're in, maybe you're someone that likes to be able to stack many sounds and do splits and layers and have really quick recall of those, then a Phantom would be great. But maybe in another situation you would be in front of your computer and using just a MIDI keyboard, and then the software version we have called Synology Pro would be great. If you're more of a vintage synth guy, maybe one of the Junos or the Jupiter would be great. So the thing is that we use the same sort of core engine in all of these products. For us, it's a really, really strong.
So it's possible to share a sound from the Jupiter series to
exactly, and also from the software to any of the hardware, and also stuff like the guitar over there is also using the same engine. The RD88 is using the same. So for us, it's really, really like an ecosystem, if you will. So we shouldn't treat this just as this instrument, because you're part of something bigger, if you will. But the cool thing is that this sort of ZEN-Core engine that can be different things, and it's also expandable, so it can sort of grow. But it can, in first place, it can be like a virtual analog synth, but it can also play samples, and so it can be more than that in a way. And also expandability is a really key point. But let's just stay with something basic at first. Let me do like this to, instead of the supernatural sounds, I will go to ZEN-Core, and just pressing enter here again, I would find different sounds there, or tones, I should say. And many of them are really great. I like this one. It's a really cool one. To finally be able to use distortion on synths, I think that's a cool thing. But maybe just to show you some really easy programming, I could just do a tone initialize and sort of get really basic with this. So first of all, I would sort of choose what type of synth I have going on, and in this case I use the virtual analog. And yeah, not going too deep, but the sort of analog synth, it can have up to 4 partials or oscillators, if you will, so that
So it's actually 4 synths at a time.
Already inside one tone.
In one tone.
Yeah, and then you could have 16 of those. So you can imagine how many oscillators we have going on.
Yeah.
So that's really impressive.
There may be some questions about polyphony.
Yeah.
In all.
Yeah, and the answer to that is it depends, but as a part of the ZEN-Core system, it's up to 256. But that would be partials, so depending on how many I use at the same time, or if I use stereo samples or not.
So if you take one tone with 4 parts, you would divide with 4.
Yeah. So that's the way it works, but I think it's still really impressive to have 256. I think back in the day we were used to just...
I think we have an incoming...
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
On the subject.
So,
or maybe not.
How many presets does it have on techno and trance and drums is the question.
Yeah, there are probably too many to count. I didn't count it. It's actually thousands of them, and especially if we look into the expandability of things, because as I sort of mentioned, what we see here is not all of it, because we do have the connection with what we call Roland Cloud, which is sort of the computer counterpart, and from Roland Cloud you could actually download a lot of sound packs to sort of expand the ZEN-Core engines. So we do have sort of 16 category buttons, if that's what we're talking about. But actually under each of these, there could be subcategories. So under the electric piano category, there could be two or something. And under brass, it would be synth brass and acoustic brass. And under bass, it would be acoustic bass and electric bass and synth bass. So depending on how the question was asked, the answer is different. But if we are counting just sounds, I don't remember the number.
I read in the manual there's about 2,000 from a start.
Yeah, I think so. But there's like almost no limitation on how many there could be. So if you add more tone,
it may be more easy to say how many scenes you can make.
Yeah,
but that's a 4 bank of 128, as I
exactly.
remember.
Yeah,
but
as of now we could change that, but as of now that's the answer. So that's of course, as of now, some kind of a limitation. But if you're running out of scenes, you could also do a full backup of everything, just to USB memory key. And that's also, I think, is a really strong point. So maybe you have a Phantom-8 at home, or you do a fly gig with your small 06, or you even rent a Phantom at the other place. So you just bring your USB key and have your full backup.
But there was more in the question.
Yeah, how many presets does it have on techno and trance and drums? Is it possible to get a demo on some of the sounds? Or?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, we could go there. So there's a lot of things in here, but I would say, if we're considering drum sounds, we didn't talk about that yet, but any of the 16 zones, or actually all of them, could be drums. So if I just select the drum category, I could see as of now, I have 9 pages of drum sounds, and that's 9 times 16, I think. But actually, this is also part of the expansion story, because another thing you could expand this, and it should really do, is because that's actually included. So the sample expansions, they are included with the purchase of this, but you download them via Roland Cloud. And we do have, as of now, 15 of these sample expansions, and you could install, I think it's depending again on other things, but I have now 4 of them installed at the same time, but you could switch them out, and each of these sample expansions, or wave expansions is the correct name, they do have a different theme. So we do have one with world sounds, or another one with dance sounds. So depending on what you install, the answer could be different. So I hope that can be of some help. But I think the key here is that makes it possible to really make the Phantom your own.
There's a lot of different drum sounds.
Yeah, there is.
I would say the whole category of Roland.
Yeah, we do have
way
all,
back,
all of the 808s and the 606 and the 707s. And this could, of course, be played by hand, but I will also, if you want to, I could show you a bit of the sequencer and how that works. So, yeah, there's a great deal of those sounds, and if we're talking more like synth sounds, there's just a bunch. Just pressing the synth category, which would lead me to the synth lead sounds. That's 37 pages now on my unit. Yeah. So that's quite many sound. Probably Nikolai could help you with counting how many that is, but I don't know 16 by 37, but I know it's a lot.
Calculate.
Yeah, why not? But the thing is that there is not really a definitive answer to this. How many of each.
It's 1,184.
Yeah, but that's just the synth lead sounds for now. And of course, many of these could be used for dance music. But it's the same, if we go to synth brass. Right now I have 12 pages of synth brass sounds, but again, it really depends. But I would find a lot of great stuff in here.
Maybe have a little side question before talk about drum. Can you use the knobs like a TR programming?
Yeah.
So
sure.
you can say first the bass and then the snare and so on.
Exactly. So maybe just spend some time on the sequencer then, if it's okay. So I would, I would do like this. The cool thing is on the Phantoms, there's like no modes. I don't need to, now I switch to the sequencer mode and start adding the sounds. I can, whenever I sort of feel for it, I can just switch over to start recording. And I think that's also a key point. So maybe I start with a drum kit on zone 8. And again, I press the Enter key to get the list of all of my sounds. do we have a preference? Maybe we should try some 80s. I tend to always end up there. But so we do have a pattern sequencer in here, and it will look a whole lot like Ableton Live if that's something you're familiar with. So we will record something we call clips, and these clips can be recorded either real time using finger drumming, or we could use what we are really proud of from our drum machine heritage, which is the TR Rec mode. And then I just press the TR Rec button, and you will be presented with the recording interface of that. And the thing is, it works like this. You just select sort of the sound you would like to work with. So I tend to start with the bass drum, and then I could use these buttons to just tell where I would like to have the kick drums, and it will sort of run left to right. So this would be 4 on the floor. Maybe it's too boring, or that was a bit German. So I can just switch over to another of the instruments and then start adding other hits, and it will also remember sort of the velocity I used.
Okay. So you just have to hit a key, and then the button
I select where I want it.
Yeah.
And I can always also do things like select the scale if I would like to do, this, like this more modern type of stuff with triplets and then I could just go on from here. I don't really need to stop the sequencer. So what I recorded now is just one clip, but I could just choose another of the zones and continue playing, and maybe select the sound that's appropriate. I'm not sure where we're going with this, but let's do some kind of why not synth press, and maybe this guy is cool. And I wouldn't normally be stopping the sequencer, but maybe it will be easier for you to hear what I'm saying. And we could use input quantize, and maybe I would do wait note, then it will sort of start recording when I hit the key. So, and now I set it up to record 4 bars. But I could like jump in and out of recording to rehearse stuff, and either put more stuff in this clip or select another of the zones to start adding more sounds. So maybe some strings would be appropriate, like this. What should we do more? Maybe a bass, and then maybe not the acoustic one. Maybe I'm not sure if we're going acoustic or electric here, or a synth, but maybe. And maybe let's see. Here we can use the octave buttons to and again I can use the volume levels. Maybe something like that. maybe we should do it a bit more longer, so we use 8. And then I could, of course, bring stuff in and out with the like volume knobs, or I could use, the touchscreen to just trigger clips. And I could also trigger a whole row of clips just by pressing this. And there's also, of course, a possibility to use the pads to trigger clips as well. So. It's really, really fun and easy to use and fast sequencer. And I tend to use this a lot, when I have like my 15 minutes of daddy time, and I don't want to start up my DAW and sit and deal with all of the messaging coming in and updates needed to software instruments and stuff. So I think it's really, really brilliant to.
And the sequence is, if you store it, it's in the scene.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. So every
yeah.
scene also stores the sequencer information. So right now I would just need to store the scene and find a place to store it, and maybe I'll do it like there, and I can rename it. So I'll probably, this is the next hit song. So that's the name I will give it, and then I just tell where I want to store it, and then it's all written there. And there's like no loading time also to call up these different scenes and songs. So it's really, really useful also for backing tracks live, for instance. And the thing that you don't need to.
Now you say no loading time.
Yeah.
What about if you change the sound?
Yeah.
Just the first fade out, or is it just cut?
Actually, we can do both on this guy. That's also one of the differences between the big one and the small one. This one, we need to sort of switch that thing on. We call it scene remain, and you find it in the system menu, and you would just need to tell it scene remain on, and then you can do seamless switching between also full scenes. But when we switch the scene remain on, it will be limited to 8 of the zones. Yeah. So 8 instead of 16. For most purposes, that's more than fine. Yeah. But that's just a thing. Whereas the big one, you could have all the 16 sounds and still be able to do scene remain switching. But there's also a really clever way of selecting zones in here. So you could do something with the pads. We haven't really spoken about the pads yet. No. But so if I just before switching function, normally these would be sample triggers. So you could trigger wave files.
But it's not playing pads, it's on-off pads.
Yeah. There's no velocity on these.
No. So it's not to play drums.
Yeah,
it's
you could, but it will be
full level.
Yeah, it's true. So you could trigger more of these together and sort of also create some kind of live backing. But there's like many different modes or uses of these. So you could use the notepad, as you say, to trigger drum sounds, but you could also do stuff like the keyboard switch group, which would then make it able to, inside the scene, just switch on and off different zones in groups. So that's kind of clever. So right now I didn't assign any groups, then it would just be switching, selecting zones 1 to 16. But of course it's a bit faster. I don't need to push this 9 to 16 button and then do the rest.
It's easier on the stage to
hit
a big button.
Yeah, exactly. But I could also edit these. So to select, at that button 1 could select maybe more of the zones, and to have like combinated sounds available with just a key, press of a key. So now I'm not sure if this goes through, but I can stay in the same scene and then switch on and off different zones with just one press of a button. So instead of having to do this, I can just do this. So I think it's really clever, and I tend to use this more than scene remain, but it's both are available. I realize we are, doing some things deep and some things really basic, but that's why we're here.
Maybe a little question about when you use the sequencer.
Yeah.
Time signature.
Yeah. There are many, but you need to choose one
before you start.
this. Yeah. So we did some improvements to that, and we also improved the sort of available measures. So now we can do much longer recordings. But I do think that the sequencer is more for patterns. Yeah. What we did add, though, also as a sort of requested feature, is that we added a standard MIDI-file player. So that's a new thing that actually hasn't, I don't think it has found its way to the bigger Phantom yet. But this, and we didn't really talk about it much. So the thing, it works like this, that you press and hold the shift key and then press the song button. Then it will, instead of the pattern sequencer, be more of a standard MIDI-file player. And that's, if you're sort of that kind of user, you play a lot of MIDI files live and being sort of limited by our longest pattern length, this may be a solution. So I think it's cool that we do have that possibility as well.
So you can load in a standard MIDI file and play back.
And then again, it would be selected. When I selected that scene, the file would be loaded.
But would that be standard with a piano and a MIDI-1?
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't really. The file would be that, but we don't really have the general MIDI mode of the user bank. So you would sort of need to do the allocation of sounds. But then again, we tend to think that we have better sounds in here than the standard general MIDI file sounds or general MIDI sound engine bank. But just to sort of try to get this to an end, I think the reason we are doing this is just the start of our presence in the Roland Room. But we will, of course, have all of these instruments in here, and we even have all of the sizes right now, so you could easily go in here and compare different instruments. But what I would like to say is something more about this this expandability. We also do have model expansions that can be purchased as a lifetime key on Roland Cloud, and then you can install things like the Jupiter 8 and the Juno 106, the JX8P and the SH101 currently. So all of those can be sort of installed in here, and then we'll sort of even more transform this instrument to something else. So if I just select the Jupiter 8 model expansion, I would get the full interface of a Jupiter 8 inside a touchscreen. And also the behavior of that and the limitations and the features of that original instrument. And the same thing.
There's four.
Currently we have 4 available, and that's also a difference between the big one. With the big one, they are included. Yeah. With the smaller one, you need to purchase them if you want.
And the prices each?
I don't really remember. I think it's 149
each.
Yeah. So of course that's a great value for the big one, but then again here you can choose not to buy them if you would like to. So, but if you're asking me, I think they're a great addition, and to be able to have all of that sort of sound inside one box, I think it's amazing.
And if you buy a lifetime, you can put it in the hardware.
Yeah.
But you also have it in.
Yeah, you have it in the software as well.
Version.
Yeah, at the same time. So right now you need to buy the lifetime key. We will see if the Roland Cloud Connect at any point will find its way to also Phantom, but right now you need to buy the lifetime key. Yeah. But I'm not sure. We probably missed a lot of things, but there's more. There's really much to tell about this.
Maybe something about the change function in
that's
a
cool.
scene.
Yeah, we do have
live,
exactly.
Yeah.
So if you, instead of selecting directly from the touchscreen, I tend to do that, but we also have a chain function, so we can create, I think it's 100 scene chains, where I sort of put my sounds in order for different songs or different acts. So maybe I have a, ABBA cover band, then I would use all my ABBA scenes in the right order. Or if I do another band another night, I would have a different scene chain. Yeah. And then when this is more like a shortcut to the stored scenes. So this is just a way to put them in a different order. But I think it's really brilliant. And then you would use, once again, these keys to...
I think we have a
have
question before close time.
Yeah, it's about the merchandise on your T-shirt. Where can I buy this?
Actually, this one is kind of a limited edition. We do have a lot of T-shirts. But I can promise you that if you come here to the store and buy a Phantom or a Phantom-0, I will set you up with a T-shirt. But that's only for you asking this question.
Okay, remember the name.
But normally this one is not for sale. We do have a lot of other cool T-shirts. But I think this will wrap it up for today. Are we sort of happy?
Let's hear some music from.
Yeah, maybe I should play you out with something cool. Yeah, I think this sound is really cool. So, yeah, I would like to say thank you all for chiming in today, especially you guys asking questions. And if you have more questions, why not come here to Kjeld and to digitalpiano.com and ask them, and we will be here all the way.
Yeah, and I would say come and visit our room. We have every Roland synthesizers and organ, and everything is ready to try. So
please come here.
Please come by.
Thanks for today. Thanks for helping us with the questions. And I might as well just play one of the demos to end, and then we fade to black.